For us, there was genuine fear, but what I want to use the word was uncertainty. And we talk about when we have trust and surrender, being okay with uncertainty. And there was this, deep level of uncertainty of not knowing what was going to happen. So my experience was like, we had a lot of intense before each wave. So like in the height of it, we kind of had done what we could in terms of a medical equipment perspective and just kind of had to ride it out. And yeah, like I only went up to the COVID wards once, but to know, getting daily numbers for our hospital or the state, like, it was constant. Like we were in the middle of it and, having family that were either interstate or, not in the CBD was a really interesting experience. But yeah, I was basically living in Melbourne during that time. And I really hope and pray that as Melbourne people, we can talk about it and have these shared experiences, because everyone went through something different. And that's why I think it's important. I was like, oh my goodness, like, I feel like we've kind of forgotten some of these lessons, or we've forgotten this happened. And I was like, I need to write this for future generations. Like, and that's been a message that's come through before. Like, I'm not necessarily writing for today or tomorrow or next week. There's going to be people, I honestly believe, that are going to read my writing in 80 years' time and reflect in how my experiences today are relevant then.
Yeah. What is reality really made of? I'm your host Carla, and welcome to Cosmic Batter, the podcast where we explore what it means to be human, with our ability to heal and transform, the power of love, and our connection to the divine. This is for anyone who realizes that there is so much more to our existence.
Yeah.
Jaimee Mayne. Hi everyone, welcome back to Cosmic Batter. I'm your host Carla, and today we have Jaimee Mayne. So Jaimee is a beautiful friend of mine, and we actually met at a writing group, and it did feel very much like destiny, which is funny because we're going to be talking about that today. But Jaimee, so she's a writer, a creative, she's also a healer, and she hosts meditations, and she is a biomedical engineer. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I find Jaimee's journey really interesting because she has the normal job as an engineer, like it's more logical and maybe mathematical, and like in the hospital, so it's more of a corporate environment as well. But then Jaimee is a healer, so her intention, there's like so much power of intention behind your work, and then expressing that as well by actually facilitating healing, and then the creative stuff and the writing. And I just think it's really beautiful to see that like in action. So yeah, welcome, Jaimee.
Thank you for having me. It's awesome to be able to just like sit and have this conversation, and we love to talk and share ideas, and to bring other people into this conversation feels really awesome. So it's awesome. Yeah.
We were just talking before and we were getting so into it. Like, okay, we should actually record this because it's like really good. Yeah, so today we were going to talk a little bit about destiny and essentially manifestation as well, because like we're both so into this. And like I said, Jaimee's applying it, obviously. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you've gotten to this point, and also starting your creative work? Like, how did this all begin?
So I guess it's really beautiful that we're talking about destiny, because, we kind of put this down a few weeks ago and to come back to it. And I've always loved science and the human body, maths, physics. So I come from a very, science, engineering background, and honestly, it felt like destiny to end up in biomedical engineering. Obviously, it's quite niche. Not many people have heard about it, but basically I love medical technology, and I wanted to learn how to help people in the hospital system from a like physics, mathematical perspective. So not even talking about spirituality, not even talking about any of these, topics that we're here, my life felt very pre-planned or very blueprint. And part of that was allowing myself to follow my intuition very early on, and to follow that gut instinct. When they say about at high school, just do subjects you love, do things you're interested in. And it really kind of started with psychology. So I did this in high school, the flight response, stress, the human body. And then it was really like, how do we measure it? Like, what does heart rate mean? What does respiratory rate mean? What can we learn from this? So I was like basically studying stress as a 16-year-old. At the same time, I was like an elite athlete. And so I had a very condensed, very full life. And, I did the things. I moved out of home to go to university, did my 5-year engineering degree, which included 12 months at the Royal Children's Hospital in intensive care.
Wow.
So it was just kind of like straight into it, like ventilators, defibrillators. It was really special working with patients that were home care patients. So basically, children that would go home with either like sleep apnea, or they needed some help breathing at nighttime, or we had a couple that were permanently on ventilators.
Whoa.
And so it was like just straight into this. And that was really, an important part of my spiritual journey was being in the ICU environment. And I remember my mentor or my manager at the time said to me, we just support the physical body and then we surrender and we allow what's going to happen. So, this was like really pivotal for my journey, is this process. And again, talking about destiny, I honestly said no to that job. I was like, I want to go have an engineering job. Like, I want to go into design. I want to learn how to repair ventilators and manufacture them. And they came back and said, well, you can do 1 day a week research, but we want you to come to the Children's Hospital. Like, this is your job. And it was basically too good of an opportunity to say no to. And so there was a lot of destiny involved in ending up in that role. So that was a 12-month role. And then I went back and finished the rest of my engineering course, worked in a really small company for 12 months. And it was at the very end of my degree, where I was doing more around self-care. My dad introduced me to the chakras. I'd always been interested in meditation, but my interest in meditation was very much around being an entrepreneur and wanting to be the best human and the most successful human.
Yeah, I feel that. I'll be the best at meditation and like my daily routine, and I will perfect it.
Yeah. So there's like a lot that happened, and then basically in my mid-20s, I consciously decided to just shut down and have a break. So I went to America, and I ended up having 2 years off completely away from engineering, which is when the Reiki and the energy healing kind of came about.
It's really nice to hear that you work in the hospital space, but from the beginning had that intuition, and also that other people are saying like, we care for the physical body, but we trust the rest. Because I've definitely had experiences where I get frustrated with the medical system, or think they just don't understand, or like they're not open to that. And of course, that's an individual thing. Like, some people are not open to spirituality, and that's fine. So it's beautiful to know like you already went in with that intention, and there are people like yourself in the space. And even when you say like you were caring for children that like couldn't breathe properly, that's like such a shock to me. And it's like, I've always still valued Western medicine, like, for the record, but then just hearing like we really still need people in doing the maths, doing the machines, because there's people that need that.
And so I went through this massive journey in 2019 of coming to terms with being an engineer, and I guess a biomedical engineer, and in that the corporate world, the Western health world, and an energy healer and a spiritual being. And I honestly think there are groups of nurses that are the most spiritual, aligned people, but it's in their own way. and they have little tiny rituals or little tiny practices in their daily life. And it might be having a cup of tea in the morning, or it might be a meditation in the evening, or it might be going to walk the dog, or it might be swimming. And so there's so many different activities that we can do to get back into alignment. And there's people across society everywhere in all different careers that have what works for them. And it's been really beautiful to open up to different people, you know, at different times throughout my journey in the hospital. And they're like, oh yeah, I meditate with my girlfriend, or I do a 10 minutes every morning, or, you know, people are doing these little tiny activities through their daily life. It might just look different, or yeah, there's no right or wrong about how we go about that. Or even being a healer, like I have so many people just do it for themselves, or they just do it for their family or their friends. And just because you do a course or you do a certificate doesn't mean you absolutely have to have a business or build a business. You might choose to, but it's how that works for you in that daily life, which can be really important.
Yeah, there's definitely, I don't know, like spiritual perfectionism, which we even mentioned before. Like, and for me too, when I had my fitness business and I was very consciously focused on being an entrepreneur, and then it was like the morning routine was hardcore because I was like, I want to set myself up in the best possible way. And it's like, well, spirituality and spiritual practice isn't about it being the best, or it's just about being here now and like with whatever comes. And I could, speak more to that, like being in DJing and now, and in the past, I'd be like, in my healing journey, I'd be like, no nightlife, no toxic energy, no darkness, no like cut it all out. And now it's like, oh, that's actually, life is just happening, and you just be there and be present with what's happening.
And so I love thinking about being a human. Like, you know, this perfectionism that everything has to be right. We have to make the right decision. We have to choose the right path. And even that, oh, it's okay to make a mistake. But if you make a mistake, you have to learn a lesson from it. Like, can we make a mistake and not learn the lesson? Like, can we just keep on rolling on? And just to, you know, we are human, and I had to make, I don't think it was a conscious decision, but something I realized is I want to be part of society. I want to live in the city. I want to live around people. And that theoretically I could choose to go live in the mountains, or I could choose to meditate 6 hours a day. But that's not why I'm here on earth. I'm here to interact and to go through my own shadows. And there was a podcast I heard the other day. It was around that self-mastery is when we learn to be okay with no matter what's happening in the external. And that we allow the external to happen, but that doesn't impact our internal. And I feel like that's been the last 12 months that I've gone through, is to take these lessons and these learnings from the waves of emotions.
Well, getting into the good stuff now. So before we get into like the waves that you mentioned, because I really want to talk about that, how did you then get into more of the healing work? And I feel like your creative abilities then sort of really came through sometime after that you started writing, or like because Jaimee's written 2 books.
One's published and one's in draft.
Okay, so the second book is on the way. Yeah, so like how did that come into the journey?
So I ended up leaving the small company I was with. So I was just basically let go of everything. I let go of my job, you know, my house, and I went traveling for 6 weeks. I ended up in San Francisco for a month and just like exploring entrepreneurship and the beauty of that. And then came back to my parents' house. And that's kind of where I allowed a lot of things to fall through and had some realizations from my past. And it was kind of, again, divine, like absolute divine timing, absolute destiny. There was a meditation that I'd been to kind of in October, November. And then I came back in December. So a month later in January, there was a fitness gym opened that also had Qigong and Reiki. So it was like this holistic gym. And it was just the right time and the right place because I just needed to rest. And there was a can't remember the name of it, but basically it was yoga, but what it involved was just lying on a mat, and we did like 4 poses in an hour.
Nice. Not yoga nidra.
No, it was like kind of a made up thing, really. Like,
oh, okay.
And it was based on the chakras. So we'd do a yoga pose for like 1 or 2 different chakras. And so in this gym class, we had massive heart opening, and the tears were allowed to come out. And there was just this really big collective healing happening in this brand new space that I just felt completely held and supported. And so I think it was April I did Reiki level 1, and then June I did Reiki level 2.
And what year is this?
This was 2017.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Beautiful.
So quite, like, I guess when I talk to people, they're like, oh, this happened in 2020 or 2021. Like, we're talking 7 years, like, this whole destiny and this path. So this was 2017 that I had this supportive community and network where I could do my initial Reiki training. And then that's kind of when I met some more artists and did a lot of inner child healing, and especially around the writing.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of wounding around writing and self-expression that kind of came to fruition in really 2017, 2018. And there was lots of oracle cards around author being a writer. So it was very present. It was just this continuous, this is where your skill set is, writing your story, sharing your story.
That's so cool. I've had little signs like write a book as well, but and I've come to the writing class.
This is where we met, isn't it?
Yeah. But then it was interesting because in January when I had that like Kundalini like experience, it was like, you're gonna write a book. I'm like, okay. And I think I wrote a few pages, and then I just had this thing of like, oh, you haven't integrated it yet. It will be written later. I'm like, oh, all right. Like I know it will happen, that I don't know.
I feel like you've just like said exactly what happened to me.
Yeah, okay.
So that was like exactly what happened. So I went to America at the end of 2016, and then 2017 was when I joined this holistic gym. And then middle of 2018, so 18 months later, I went back to America. And I actually went to talk about writing books and like meet literary agent over in America, which sounds crazy. And then when I came back very much ready to write the book. And I knew what 2/3 of the book were going to be. And I got to the last third, and I just like figuratively, literally burst into tears, because I was like, I don't know what the third chapter, like the third section is. Like, I haven't lived it. I haven't experienced it.
Wow.
So from 2018 to 2024, so 6 years, I've been going through the lessons. I've been having the experiences. I've been embodying it and integrating it.
Wow.
And so I've just had to be so patient on this journey of like, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And it just feels like this week things have like clicked into gear. It's like, okay, we can go, we can do this. I can share my story. I can tell what's happened.
That's so exciting. And I love to hear that you've had that process of as well of knowing like when is the right time. Because sometimes I'll, for just as an example, be like, oh, I want to write a book, and people are like 10 pages every day. And I'm like, I feel when it's time it will come. And like I already know the way that I work as well. When something's ready, I just do it. It doesn't matter the effort involved, it will get done. And I guess that's a stereotypical like masculine perspective, like just do it every single day. And I'm already like, I'm a feminine being, like sometimes I go hardcore, sometimes I rest, like it's already cyclical. So it just feels nice to hear that's been your experience too, and on a bigger scale, because it's taken a couple of years to write the next one.
And I think it's really beautiful. Like I actually had a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about this commitment to writing the book. And we were really talking about that learning process, like learning what's involved. And we spent a lot of time talking about journaling and getting pen to paper. And I do really still think that's important, is to have practices about self-expression or talking to other writers and learning that process. But I also agree with allowing it to flow when it flows. And so I spent 10 days in January of 2019. I was like, yeah, I'm going to write. And I went to an Airbnb and like did some writing. And it ended up being that the first book wasn't what I did in those 10 days, but I'd had like tens and tens of thousands of words. And so I went and I got those words and these favorite quotes and I put together a smaller book. So I was able to publish something and get my words onto paper and learn through that process. And so that's kind of something that I would, you know, if people are interested in that process, you can learn about it, but it doesn't have to be that masterpiece as the first piece.
Yeah, that's nice. Like, there can be steps.
There can be steps involved, yeah. And we can learn and grow and, you know, maybe it's around writing articles or writing a blog. Like, you know, there's all these aspects to learning and building that creative flow and also putting our work out into the world, because that can be scary and there can be emotions that come up when we're sharing really deep and personal things.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a beautiful long journey, this creation and, you know, painting and artwork and crafting and sewing, and like I'm working on a cross stitch at the moment. And allowing ourselves to create for the fun of creating versus this is our purpose and this is really serious and this is really important. Like there's all different types of creating, which you would know with your music. Like that's
I'm doing music now. I love that. Like I did a masterclass last night. It was Spark. If anyone, I don't know if I'm going to put it up to watch, but I talked about like taking the pressure off of things, like just what you mentioned. So instead of being like, I'm writing a book, it's going to make me successful and give me authority and make money, then being like, yeah, I'm just going to write this book because it's fun and like whatever happens, happens. And then it's obviously you're pouring, you know, really your heart into it, but then it's like, well, the cross stitch, you literally just do for fun. There's no pressure. And so it's easy to do. And it's just so powerful to make things that are fun and release, the pressure.
And I was talking, one of the girls at work was talking about having hobbies that we're bad at. She's like, so freeing to have a hobby that I'm allowing myself to not be perfect. And it's not even bad, but it's just releasing that perfectionism traits, because I definitely have that. And part of that writing process is that self-expression for like just to get it out and to journal. And I'm really excited because I've just decided, I wrote a piece around my experience from 2020 to 2024 and that being in the hospital and setting the intention and those daily practices. I was like, I am ready to put that out in the world now. Like I am ready to put that on the internet. Like this is my story and this is my experience, and fully acknowledge everyone has their own experience, but giving myself permission to share a little bit of my heart.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And it just makes me think it's actually so significant to capture your experience in that moment in time and what it means, like, to be Australian, but also living in Melbourne, but also living in the city, but also working in a hospital, and at this time and through COVID, and to be, and then over time, like, I feel like it really is once in a lifetime, like capturing, obviously because it's your lifetime, but you just really feel like your expression matters and people want to witness that, or like, regardless of other people, but it can have so much impact or curiosity and all these beautiful things.
And just like for me at that time, talking about destiny, like I started back in the hospital in August of 2019. So I'd had 12 months in 2013, had 6 years off, went back in 2019, and I was called there. So it was an angel reader that said, you need to go back to the hospital. So twice I'd been called to the hospital. And to go from August and say, you know, April, March of 2020 and be like, what am I doing? And just, I remember one day there was a message that I heard, you know, from Spirit, was like, you're meant to do this. Like, this is where you need to be. And having that clarity and that confirmation and not knowing at the time and having complete faith and trust and surrender. And to sit here 4 years later, 4.5 years later, 4 years later, and be like, that was an experience where me and my team and a number of individuals, we genuinely experienced something that no one else in Australia experienced. Like, I was involved in setting up an additional ICU environment, and I was there on the Monday morning when patients got wheeled in, and you know what I saw and things, but it was my experience, and it was something that I don't think many other people, no one experienced it like I did, because I had this element of spirituality, of energy work, of intention, of surrender. So I can say no one that I've come across had this level of meditation and personal practice while being an engineer in Melbourne, in the hospital. And our hospital, we got the message 2 months ago that we were stopping masks. So we had mask rules for 4 years, and we're completely free now.
Wow. So that is fascinating, and I am so interested to read your experience as well, to hear more about it, because COVID obviously was so different for everyone, but I felt very detached from actual COVID. And like, you know, I wasn't seeing it. I wasn't actually seeing it happen. And anyone in my family that got it, that like, it wasn't a big deal. I think one of my family members went to a hospital, but then they were okay. And because, first of all, COVID threw me far deeper into spirituality. I was already touching on it, but then it was like, you have to be alone and sit with this and all this stuff. And then I would get really frustrated that, for example, the news is like projecting fear, and I'd be like, okay, I understand that COVID exists, I believe that, and I know it's real, but also you're making it worse. You're making it worse for everyone, and now as a collective, we're all manifesting this really negative experience. So I was getting so frustrated that, yes, I know it exists, but also I don't want to participate in the fear, and like I'm not going to manifest that for myself. And then I have quite a medical families, quite a few like paramedics, and so then me then feeling totally like outcast, and it was just such a strange time.
There was lots of different dynamics, weren't there? Like,
And I also personally felt like I spoke to my medical family a few times because I wanted to understand all sides, but a few times I was met with judgment, and then I felt like, well, now I can't talk to the people that actually know what's going on. Like, if I can't speak and express my questions openly, which some of them I can, like I do have a good family, but then just being like, well, I'm just going to have to stand in my beliefs and feel extremely detached from what's actually happening. And like, then I felt like I couldn't trust medical people even further. Like, so it's so nice again to hear your experience.
Yeah. And so for us, you know, there was genuine fear, but what I want to use the word was uncertainty. And we talk about, when we have trust and surrender, being okay with uncertainty. And there was this, you know, deep level of uncertainty of not knowing what was going to happen. So my experience was like, we had a lot of intense before each wave. So like in the height of it, we kind of had done what we could in terms of a medical equipment perspective, and just kind of had to ride it out. And yeah, like I only went up to the COVID wards once, but to know, you know, getting daily numbers for our hospital or the state, like it was constant. Like we were in the middle of it, and you know, having family that were either interstate or, you know, not in the CBD was a really interesting experience. But yeah, I was basically living in Melbourne during that time, and I really hope and pray that as Melbourne people, we can talk about it and have these shared experiences, because everyone went through something different. And that's why I think it's important. I was like, oh my goodness, like, I feel like we've kind of forgotten some of these lessons, or we've forgotten this happened. And I was like, I need to write this for future generations. Like, and that's been a message that's come through before. Like, I'm not necessarily writing for today or tomorrow or next week. there's going to be people, I honestly believe, that are going to read my writing in 80 years' time and reflect in how my experiences today are relevant then.
Yeah. And that's what I was thinking when I said, like, your experience is so unique, people will be reading it. Yeah, and I feel that as well, like, because COVID, we all had a different experience. And like I said, with my family, sometimes I was met with some judgment. In their defense, like, they were afraid as well. And it pushed me to some like really dark places mentally, but then to have that experience, it's also really special, and like something was born in that experience. Like, I then learned my values hardcore, and like I would do this for me no matter what the almost, you know, like, yeah, and be like, well, this is what I believe is true for me. And as hard as it was, it's also like a beautiful defining moment. So I agree, like, the conversations are important. Like, what did we go through? And also we're all recovering really still from that. I think, people forget that we're recovering as well.
And I think so.
Going out socially at first, my nervous system was, like, it was hard to be around a lot of people for a while.
And I was really reminded, like, I'm doing a lot of reflection, you know, this year and now, like, what have I learned over the last 4 years? What have I learned over the last 7 years? And there was a post I read. It was like, what were all the things that we said we were going to do? And what did we enjoy about that time? Because I think a lot of things were stripped away, and a lot of, you know, there was restrictions, or we spent a lot of time in our bedrooms or our lounge rooms, and there were people like, I remember that, you know, the second wave was like, oh my goodness, we said that we were going to do this, and it's been 2 weeks, and then we were back in it to like learn it again. And I just feel like we have this opportunity. All of us had this opportunity. What was one good thing that happened during that time? Or what was the thing I was grateful? What did I appreciate? Was it an activity? Was it a person? Was it walking in the park? Or what were those things that really made us happy? Because this week I was like, I can sit at home all weekend and I don't have to feel guilty about it. I can choose that. And it was like this freaking light bulb.
Yeah.
That I can choose what I do with my time. And it, like, literally was like...
It's funny, it's so simple, but actually, like, when you know it in your body, it's huge. Because I also had a pattern before COVID. I used to be... I still am really social, but, like, extremely social. Always doing things and partying before COVID as well, and like still drinking and occasionally like doing other things, which I've spoken about on the podcast before. And when COVID finally came, I actually was like, oh, thank God. In terms of the lockdowns at first, I was like, I actually have been trying to break that pattern where I'm not interested in partying anymore. Like, I still love music, I love dancing, but the environments that I was in and the groups that I was associated with, like, I had been trying to exit. And I remember before COVID, I would like go out for dinner with friends and not want to drink, and then I'd end up having like one drink, which is not a big deal. But I remember saying to myself, do you actually have a problem if you cannot say, like, every
the
time
difference
you go
between
to
0
dinner,
and 1.
Yeah, every time you go to dinner, like, and I just was like, what's with that? So COVID was a great pattern interrupter. And now all those people that I was with back then, beautiful people, but now I'm not connected to them anymore. And it took time, but actually grateful to have broken that pattern, moved on to a new path. Yeah, I've learned so much. Yeah.
And I think so. And for me, like, when I think about it, I was actually really content going to work and coming home on the evenings and staying home on the weekends. And I think, you know, I say that as a high school student, I had anxiety and fear about working 9 to 5. And it's just hit me. I had anxiety about working 9 to 5 and socializing and rowing and doing this hobby and doing this activity and having family commitments. Because it was too much in school. Like, I didn't have that me time and that rest time.
Yeah.
And it's taken this number of years to be like, I can go to work and I can do my job. And I come home and I have dinner and I talk to a friend on the phone and I do 15 minutes of cross stitch and then I have a shower and go to bed. I was like, that's life. Like, I had all these other expectations, or I thought that every day was going to be like fireworks. But actually we could just go through the patterns and go through the routine and feel some comfort in that security and that stability and that routine, and just find those little moments of stillness amongst that routine.
Yeah, and we need time to integrate and appreciate the firework moments. Like, we all need so much more time to integrate like what's actually happening on a day-to-day basis, I feel. And yeah, I relate to like previously thinking I would be just doing stuff constantly, and I've always worked really hard, but then through COVID and stuff learned like, oh, I actually don't want to work that hard, and like, how can I choose to make my experience more easeful? Yeah, and COVID actually made me travel by myself for the first time. Like, I started going on road trips through COVID. As soon as a lockdown period like was paused, I was like, I am out of here. And it was so scary. And I realized that before I was sort of in a bubble of contentment, but also like, I realized that I thought that was all I was capable of. And then COVID being like, no, fuck this. Like, I need to get out, and just like then creating like a whole new identity that's capable of that.
I think there's something really beautiful around solo traveling and getting in the car and just going and figuring it out in that moment. Like, it's really quite freeing, and I've had some similar experiences in that.
And times where it's like really, really hard. Like, I had moments where I was traveling, I had $30 and like, okay, I cannot afford petrol to even get home, and like crying, and then like money it disappears. We could keep talking about that, but I want to bring it back. You even mentioned before, like, you thought in the past would always be fireworks, now realizing like, how can I just be present in the moment and doing what you want? And we also mentioned the waves that come through every day. I guess you want to talk about what that means to you, or like applying that. There's a few ways we could take it, but what do you want to share about like the waves of?
I think for me as a teenager, I would get to these points of complete overwhelm, and it was like just that freeze and not knowing what to do next. And I felt like my family or someone would say, what's wrong? And I couldn't articulate it because it was too many little things. And so we kind of went through this process when I was leaving school and starting university, where I started to put my hand up and be like, I need to talk to someone, or I need to offload. And I feel like for me, it was like 6 months, and then 4 months, and then 3 months. And so these periods of time of getting to extreme overwhelm got less and less and less. And so now I'm at a point where I can be like, I feel a bit off, or I feel a bit funky, or I feel a bit lonely, or I feel a bit distressed. And having gone through those waves, I'm like, I will be okay. This is not forever. These feelings, these emotions, these sensations, they will pass. And, you know, part of that was connecting it to my monthly cycle and feeling into more of the astrology and things. And so coming to this place for me of not feeling great, or feeling down, or having a sensation, or feeling heavy, being like, okay, I feel this, and I'm going to acknowledge it, and then we're going to choose again. And whether that's purification or an energy work or a meditation or dance or connecting with a friend, having built those toolkit for me has really helped me go through the waves. And we were talking before we jumped on about not fearing those heavy feelings and allowing ourselves to dive into the shadows and dive into the heaviness. And I think that's a skill that I'm really grateful for having.
Yeah, there's a few things I want to say, but with your understanding of the waves and your toolkit that you mentioned, how do you use that to realize what you're manifesting? And I ask that because I think so often we get really hyper-focused on the details of daily life and just showing up in daily life, and then all we see, like, physically, literally, is our current situation, and then thinking, oh, well, I'm this job, I'm this position, I'm this family member, and we get, like, really trapped in that. And then we're almost, like, just dealing with the micro. But I think with the awareness that you have, it's like, well, I'm manifesting something obviously beyond that, it's in the present, but beyond that, and you know those waves actually contribute to what you're manifesting. So yeah, how do you, why is that practice important for, like, connecting to your manifestations?
So for me, the waves or the okay, there's two different things here.
Waves and cycles.
Waves and cycles.
Moments and yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about this in terms of the seasons. Cool. So summer, winter, autumn, spring. And I want to preface that these cycles and seasons appear at multiple places in nature. And for me, it came through Qigong, which has 5 different symbols and seasons. So we'll talk with the summer, which is obviously 4, but the Qigong has 5. And metal is harvest, which is like autumn.
Oh.
So if anyone's in the Qigong, which is like the Chinese aspect, so metal and autumn and harvest is where the manifestation comes in.
Cool.
So we're going to, like, dive into that.
Yeah.
But I just want to say or make a comment that the waves and the cycles has really, really strong engineering, mathematical aspects to it.
Slay.
So, like, when I, like, talk about waves and cycles, my brain literally goes into, like, electronics and maths and, like, all these really fucking cool symbols and shit.
Fun.
Which one day I'll write about and one day someone can ask me a question about, but yeah, my body's like, oh, like
that's a whole masterclass.
It's a whole nother story. So we know we have summer and autumn, day and night, spring, growth, new beginnings. Like, these are general comments. But autumn is where the magic happens.
Right.
Autumn is a beautiful time of year, and we're obviously in Melbourne in the Southern Hemisphere, and all of our Northern Hemisphere friends are, like, getting ready for Halloween and, you know, the harvest. And
we're in spring and they're in autumn, is that? Yeah.
And so for me, autumn represents letting go of the old, making way for the new. So it's a cleansing and a clearing. And it's also about taking the vegetables and the harvest and the fruits and accepting. And so there's this parallel or duality around letting go of what no longer serves us and receiving. So the lesson for me was when we're starting our healing journey and we're learning to let go, it can feel vulnerable. It can feel like you're very bare. It can feel heavy when you're, like, letting go of things that you've been really attached to. And learning those self-care aspects or that self-nurturing while you're letting go of what no longer serves you, they're the same tools that we use when we're accepting and we're feeling worthy and something really amazing comes and we will receive it, and then we just keep going with our daily routine and bringing that into our daily routine and our habits. And it's not like life finishes because we get given a $200 check or because we get given a trip away, you know, a holiday. Like, imagine if someone said to you, I'm going to give you $10,000 and you can go away for 2 months on this magnificent trip. And you're like, yes, this is amazing. Like, this is what I've always wanted. And we feel like that would solve all of our problems for the rest of our life. But actually, it's only 2 months. And then you have to come back and you have to do the thing again. And so these cycles and waves, the good things come and then we get back into our routine. The bad things happen and then we get back into our routine. And so that's kind of... Does that answer the question about the waves and this autumn and learning the toolkit and receiving?
Yeah. So, and what comes through for me is, like, neutralizing it. So you accept graciously and with gratitude, but it's not like you're not putting all this stuff on it that this will change my life forever, all this expectation or obligation and pressure onto the experience or onto yourself. And then that taking away the expectation then just makes it a normal part of life. And so then like the waves become less extreme as well, because we're at peace, like an acceptance of the flow, the natural flow.
Yeah. And then, so my other little thing that helps me in my brain is that we have big waves. So we have seasons and we have months. So like the female cycle, and then we have days. And so we're going to have big waves, but there's waves inside the waves.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like the solstice are the peaks of those. And so the longest day of the year and the darkest night of the year are like these dramatics where we like really dive deep into it. And so we know that like there might be a winter during a night during a new moon in autumn, which also feels pretty dark because we've got those depths happening, the day, the month and the year. And then we have the same in spring, whereas like we have a full moon in spring and we're feeling those new beginnings and that energy and that socializing. And like we're kind of in that here at the moment with daylight savings, like there's more light in the evenings. And so it's really interesting to feel those flows throughout the year as we rest and recover. And I feel at the moment, I feel like a spring. So I feel like
things are like taking off from me.
Yeah, they were about to like hit into like summer and like go full ball, but we're not quite. And so how do we feel into that energy and that wave?
I love this so much. Like resonates with so many things I've been speaking about and teaching on recently. And I think it's so important to know, because then it's like every moment of every day holds so much power. And then again, like there is no future timeline where like things are all perfect and resolved. Like you actually have everything you could possibly need right now, and everything that's happening is purposeful, especially in terms of the cycles and the waves and the seasons. Like in winter, we are meant to slow down and reassess and like, do I want to be doing this? Does this feel right to me? And there's letting go of what's no longer serving, and that's creating space to then receive the thing that's coming through. I think so earlier this year, especially after Kundalini, which it doesn't really matter, but after that experience, like things slowed down and I had to step back from working, and like I just had to ground and chill, and like I kept trying to create a course, because courses were really how I made my consistent income, and I also loved doing them. But I kept trying to do that, and I just couldn't put all the teachings together that I had floating around in my brain. And I can't remember who it was, a friend of mine was like, why don't you just rest? Because you have no idea what's coming.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Like you don't know what your body is preparing for. Like obviously, yes, I had to integrate the actual experience that had happened, but your nervous system might be getting ready to hold something so much bigger. And like I mentioned just now, it doesn't matter that I had an experience of Kundalini, it still applies for everyone. Like that experience is also neutral. It doesn't matter. That everybody, if you're being called to slow down, instead of trying to fight the energy and be like, no, I'm trying to make something, be like, well, maybe your manifestation is actually about to come and you need to chill to prepare to accept it. Because once it's here, whatever it is, there might be movement and action, and you need energy for that.
And I know that you've spoken about that in previous conversations we have about making space for what you want. Like if you want to do something in the evenings, you need to create that space. And having those open arms when it comes, you can say yes, like this is what I want, let's go. And we were talking off air just before we jumped on about when we're ready for it and we've created all this space, and it doesn't come in that instant, what do? You're like, I've got space, I've got time, I'm energized, I'm ready. And there was a quote that I heard, it was like, go and have fun. Like, if all your ducks are lined up, you're stable, you've got, routine with time, and, you're not living in lack and scarcity, like, go and enjoy life, because that's what life's for. And those rest and the recovery, that's going to sustain you when that big project finishes. That you're not attached to it, and it's not your whole life, that you've got friends and family outside of that, or hobbies outside of it, so we don't get attached to it not ending, and we can go through the cycle of that project ending when the time comes.
I just love this whole conversation, because it also just reminds all of us that building what you want, it's not just about building. It's not just about doing and taking action. Like, yes, that's an important part. But when we're only building, it's like there's nothing for the energy to stand on, and the energy can't go anywhere because you're like controlling it. And at least for me, with my fitness business, I was trying to build something like 10K a month, consistent income, empire, like world domination. But so I was like constantly doing action, building. And it just kept getting harder and harder and harder and harder, because I wouldn't let it flow. And because I was trying to do everything and tick all the boxes and take all the action, thinking that that's what generated momentum, I ended up doing a whole bunch of stuff I didn't need to be doing, which actually is blocking the flow and getting in the way, especially doing some things that I no longer practice, like sales calls. By doing things that I didn't want to be doing, it's blocking the energy, but then not allowing, there's no space for the things I actually want to be doing, like, to come through. So, okay, building your dream life and living and embodying that, there's action, but then you actually just do the things that you want to do, feel joy, go to the beach, chill out, dance, take a dance class, take an art class, like, just do the things you want to do, because then there is the space to receive the lifestyle that you're actually asking for, to actually feel and breathe and embody that. And I also like to think of it as like a wave. And if you've ever heard of reality transurfing, that takes it a little bit further. But you do the stuff, like you kind of generate the power of the wave, and then it's like, just ride the wave. Like, actually let the energy carry you. Let the momentum of what you've done, let it do the rest.
I think,
and like, show up and receive.
I think there's so much about that. It'd be like building a business or being an entrepreneur or doing the thing, and then we forget that we actually get to live that experience. Like, life is here to be lived, to be experienced. And I know that I previously, and probably still do, can get so caught up in my head of, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to prove myself, I need to do all these things. But as humans, we're innately worthy. And we're here to be in the moment and ground our feet and have this experience, have these conversations, enjoy ourselves, eat good food, have sunshine, be in nature. Like, the world's there to be experienced.
And like, our creations and the things that we want to build, that's just the fun part of the experience. It's not like who we are at the core.
That's important, isn't it?
And I think now, like, I'm creating so many things all the time, really, and this year especially, my relationships have taken on like a whole new level of meaning. So before, especially when I was younger, relationships were more of a duty. Like, obviously I wanted friendships and things like that, but I felt like, oh, if you're my best friend, I will do this and this and this, and these are the rules, and that's how I show up. And now, like, as I get older, actually being like, oh no, I'm actually in relationship with each person, and the depth and stuff will flow and vary. But there's like, we both choose to be here, and if the energy in a friendship, for example, if there's resistance, we can either choose to work through that in relationship, or we can just let it flow and just gonna go other ways for a moment. And my point is that like there's something else that's building there that's got nothing to do with work or money or success. And I think of the way that I've been able to support my friends, especially this year as well, and what's being built there. Like, how am I contributing to literally the whole world, but how am I contributing to them? And like, actually, I'm such an important part of their foundation, and then therefore like their creations and experience and expression. And in my family as well, and because I live with my parents, I would say I do a lot of emotional labor. I say that with love. But I do a lot of, I really care for my parents as well and transmute energy in the family. I'm not getting paid for that. Except, I mean, I would say that I am, and that it comes back around. But like, we're not just building, like our literal existence and just being here is so much more than that, than anything that can be built.
And when we were talking, like, for like building and allowing the decay and the, have a project or have a business, and linking it back to our destiny earlier, I went to a women in business workshop probably 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And there was a female there, mother, and she's like, I'll do something for 3 or 4 years and then I'll let it decay and then I'll build a new business. And so she wasn't like this, I'm going to have a business for 20 years. It's, I'll do this and it'll work for a while and then something else will spark. And it was probably the first time I really saw the divine feminine in action in business. And that was amazing to see that was possible. And then the next thing, those flows and those it all comes. Oh, sorry, that's what I was going to speak about. Coming back to when we are healers and we are, star seeds or whatever you want to, like, doesn't matter the word, but our role is to alchemize. And when we trust and we surrender that we will be looked after and that Mother Earth and the universe will support us, that's just like, I'm going deep in this at the moment. Like, my work is to alchemize myself. And as a number 6 role model, if I look after myself and I'm in tune and I'm in alignment and I'm in love and I'm in authenticity, and then I trust that these beautiful relationships and space that I create will invite people in, and I'll go to a writing workshop or I'll go to a cafe, or I'll have an interaction and I'll meet these people, and just by being me, I'm that ripple effect. Is something that's what I'm diving into now. Like, just be me, my authentic self, do my cleansing, my authentic, and literally everything else will take care of itself.
I think the same.
It's scary, but it's true.
Yeah.
And I believe it now. And I don't know what the future's going to hold. I'm uncertain. But opportunities, we choose our path. We just say yes to God, divine, I'm here, let's do it. I'm listening and creating. For me, the biggest thing is creating that space to listen. Yeah. That's my number one. If I create the space and I listen and I'm in alignment, authentic, then I get to experience the true life. This is my choice that I have. I can stay in an establishment and I can stay doing the thing, or I can surrender and be like, whoever you are, you've got a blueprint for me, and I'm choosing to experience this life that I was given.
Yeah, there's so many things I wanted to say. What do you think about, I'm just going to go with that, the very last thing that you said, essentially about like free will and so destiny as well. We are going deep. I just love this, because I think, like, when I did have my Kundalini experience, I felt the presence of God, and I was spoken to as well. And I, after that, was like God worship in a non-religious way. Like, I felt universe, like there's a higher power. But more recently, and this is something I've thought about before, like, I'm also thinking that's also me. And then reclaiming my power in that I'm not giving away my journey to something else, even though there's a guiding force, still being like, well, but I also think it's actually me. But I'm curious to know what you think. Like, if you think the higher power is almost a separate divine guidance or self-reflection.
I think it...
And and I'll just say it will flow and change. I said my interpretation flows and changes all the time.
I think... I use the word duality, so basically saying we're two separate or we're the same. And I think there are times where you think it's two separate, and there's times where you think it's the same, and that's kind of what we're saying. And in all honesty, I know, or I believe, or within me, we are all connected. Like, everything is one. We are all connected. And however you visualize that, our energy interacts with everyone else. And when we have really deep spiritual practices or experiences, we get to connect even deeper with the oneness. And I talk about it, my engineering brain, the oneness of like the quantum, the tiny, 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 or the really, 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 really big. And so that the really big is everything is one, and the really small is everything is one. And I have these weird little pictures in my heads about like the big universe being in the little universe. And so yes, the little universe is everything, and so we are everything. But going back to free will is really important. And through your question, I kind of got clarity for myself, because sometimes you can feel like you're being told something and this is your destiny and you need to do this and this is the next step for you. And I definitely had that, and everyone had amazing intentions. But I was like, I'm not ready, or I don't want that, or that's not my choice right now, or that's too hard. But now I'm like, everything was divine. Like, I needed those 20 people to be like, you're an author. You need to write. This is your path. You need to clear space. You need to create time to meditate. You need to, do your dishes, like silly things. But I was like, I needed all of those people to tell me. And then for me to be like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Oh shit, now I'm ready to do that. But my free will to say no is really, really important. If you're not ready, or you don't want to, or you can choose another path, you have that right as a human. And I guess where I am today, I'm like, the act of free will is part of the plan.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's where
Lovely
the divine
way of
time...
saying it. Yeah, I agree that it's important to know we have free will, because I've had moments of being like, well, some things feel so divine and like orchestrated that doesn't matter what I say, and then actually feeling really powerless. I think we all have those moments, but then but we do have the choice in every moment, and it's actually the outcome, and I think that experiences do change depending on the choice. So for example, 20 people told you were an author, and maybe that was always going to happen, but the way that it was experienced and the places it was said does change based on choice. And I think the more tuned into energy you become, the more you realize the power of choice, and you can actually feel how powerful the choices are. So maybe that's a part of the journey. I'm like, tick, tick, tick. Like, as we're growing, we can feel we're just going with the motion or being really guided. And then as you become more sensitive, you can just pick more consciously, and then there's more power there. Like, I was I've just done this DJ competition, and that was just for fun, but now it's kind of taking off. And I think because of the healthy detachment we spoke about and all these things, and it's just for fun. Well, it's for fun, but it's going somewhere now. But and I had an opportunity to create an event with other people in the DJ space, which I was like, cool, great, fun. I want to play. That just feels like it could be fun. If it's a group effort, it could be fun doing that together. But at the same time, I'm planning my own ecstatic dance and workshops and in-person events and my healing work, and there's other things happening. And then this DJ group, at first it felt amazing, and then something about the energy just shifted. And I just felt, it doesn't feel aligned anymore. It doesn't feel true to my values. Expressed that, spoke about it. These people are beautiful people. And that opportunity is still there, but then just feeling like, you know what? I can just sense now. I could do it. I could 100% follow through with it, but I'm actually going to put my energy into where I know it's more powerful. So choosing to say no to that. And I think now it literally feels subtle. I can feel the people and I love them and it would be fun, but being like, but I have free will and I'm going to actually direct it into something else.
Yeah, it's important. And we get more, not more sensitive, but more in tune, and we can make subtler decisions, or be like, rather than being right in the middle of it, you like eventually might put your head in and like, yes, no, like, and not, for me, the biggest lesson was not getting angry at myself when I got it wrong. Or being like, I should have done that, or should have done this, or, you know, what happened this year, I'm like, oh, I should have done that in 2018 or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, but the lessons had to unfold and in the right time, in the right place.
Yeah, I love when you said you're not angry at yourself if you made the wrong choice. And I just feel called to share, like, recently I felt very neutral about my past and my whole journey as a whole. And I think this is also related to like neutralizing the waves and realizing the highs and the lows are actually important. And the more comfortable we get with that and the more we listen, actually the less intense the waves are. And you could achieve the most incredible manifestation, but it's beautiful and it just is. And then that makes it easier to manifest. So I even think doing the DJ competition and now getting gigs and opportunities, I'm like, it's quite neutral to me. It's beautiful. I'm so grateful, but it's quite neutral. Anyway, but yeah, in the past, like I've had trauma and like trigger warning, but like with men or like them crossing my boundaries. And at the time it was such an awful experience. But now personally, I'm like, well, now I feel so safe in the sense that it will never happen again. Because I know now. I know how the energy was off in those moments. I know how I didn't quite speak up, or I didn't choose to leave the space. Of course, again, it wasn't my fault, all these things, but being like, oh, it doesn't matter now, and I feel safe around men, because it will just never happen again, because I've had that experience, and we can like, I would just like I'm not mad at myself for those moments where I chose wrong. Now being like, oh, it's just a part of it.
And I think like, as someone that's about to turn 33, I never realised how much we grow and evolve as humans. Like, it's huge. And I saw a quote, you know, it's like off tangent a little bit, but like this whole thing about destiny and growth and expansion. Like, I'm 32, turning 33. Like, I've got another 30 years, but it was something along the lines of, but we're not starting from square one. We've got 30 years with all this knowledge and all this experience, all these things that we've learned. And we get to make decisions based on today and tomorrow of how we want to live and how we want to, you know, bring all these beautiful things into our life.
I'm sure you have more than 30 years.
I know. 30 plus 30. Like,
for the role model. As in human design. Yeah, and then I love that as well, because then it's like, I think I said this already, you have everything you need right now. And I've been playing with this idea of like almost being born every moment.
Oh my God, that's so crazy. I was like, I've got this afternoon. I was like, what am I going to do this afternoon? Like, I was like, I'm going to go have lunch. I'm going to go sit in the sun. Like, I'm going to go, like, you've just inspired me to like revamp my whole day. Yeah. And it's like, and for me, it's like, you know, the weekends are really sacred to me at the moment. And do I want to rest and do my cross stitch or watch movies? And then I was like, I can like have frozen pizza and watch a movie and like snuggle on the couch and like, how do I create that full body enjoyment in whatever the activity is? That's been really cool for me at the moment. Like, if I go for a walk, how can I full body go for a walk? Or, go grocery shopping and I'm going to cook a pasta with olives and sun-dried tomatoes. Like,
enjoy the experience.
Yeah, I think there's so much, like, we have to eat food, so how can we get enjoyment and pleasure and rather than it be a chore, that I know there's a thing at the moment, like, I get to do my laundry, I get to do my dishes, I get to do my shopping, like, I have clothes to wear, I have money to buy food, there's food in the fridge to cook, like, that blessing of having these things that we can easily take for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love, like you said, your weekends are sacred. And another thing I've been like toying with is, in the past, I think I would be like, oh, I wish I was in Egypt in that time, like in the temple as a healing priestess. Like, I just channeling that energy, which is fun. And I've done that in a past life. But then being like, well, actually, this is the temple. And when I have a bath here and I light candles, like, I am the goddess in the beautiful palace sort of thing, or however you want to visualize it. Or like, you might watch like an archaeology show and they'll be like, oh, the wealthy people would come together in Rome and they would party or something. And then I'm like, that's actually us in the club. It actually is like any party gathering and like our healing circles of any kind, friends coming together, it's the same as what we would consider sacred in the past. And just being like, can I bring that experience into the now? And one more thing, at the start of this year, I really wanted to travel. Like, I love my road trips and things, but I just had a feeling it's not now and I have to just stay for a little while and have these roots. And I said, okay, if I can't travel, and I had like major like financial restrictions and then Kundalini and my nervous system, I could not travel. Like, just integrating and being like, okay, well, can I just bring the adventure within me? And then the DJ competition, like, what the heck? What, like, the music and the way that it's come back, and it's like, whoa, okay, like, the adventure can be here now. All these things here now.
So I've got two things. So the first one was I had 4 weeks off from work in September and I was like toying with the idea of going back to San Francisco. Like it felt like going home. And I said to myself, what is it that I love about San Francisco? And it was like the co-working spaces and the restaurants and the cafes and the people. And I like went to a co-working space in Melbourne and had a beautiful day. Or it's like go to a restaurant or a cafe, like, how do we bring those experiences into now? So that was like my travel comment.
Love.
And then I've got my healing circle comment.
Yeah.
So when I did my cacao facilitation courses, we did lots of heart opening aspects and going into the heart and, really deep journeys and opening the door and seeing basically a cave with like 20 wise women. And so there was these meditations and these really profound, really sacred rituals. And I had the Egypt ones as well. But like going in and just imagining this gorgeous divine space with the incense and the sound healing, and it was an experience. And then exactly like you said, I'm booked in for a women's camping event at the end of October. And we're going to have the fire ceremony and we're going to have the ritual and the talking circle. And I was like, this is my version in the real life, in the embodied, in the human connections. We're doing the thing. Like, it's the human version. And I've really kind of been playing with that. When do I want to step into journey and when do I want to step into those other experiences and when do I want to step into nature and the human world and the right now, and finding that balance. And I've had a conversation with another friend about not getting stuck in the spirit journeys. And we're choosing here and we're choosing now and we're choosing to live this life, and that we can touch on those things in moments of need, or not craving as in knowing how it sustains us and builds joy and energy into our life, not using it as a escape.
Not using spirituality as an escape, because it like definitely I think everyone's experience when we're healing, to get really frustrated with the mundane, or like, I shouldn't be having this problem, or cut off this toxic family member, and sometimes that's a part of it. I've had my moments. But then it's like, well, but we actually are here for the mundane, and it's good to, sometimes it's nice to just be human and like switch off the higher energies. I definitely do.
Yeah. And like, it's that balance of, is this a problem that I need to overcome? Or is this just a distraction? Or is it just life? Like,
or
having
just like
that
slow down and
discernment.
chill. Yeah.
Between those different aspects.
We could go on and on, but I think that's our marker there. Just to close it off, do you want to share like maybe a bit about what you're creating at the moment? So your book, and if that's coming out, or your healing, or anything you want to share?
Yeah. So I think I'm in a really beautiful space at the moment of just free flowing. So I'm going to open up my books for in-person and online healing. So if people are interested, they can get in contact through my Instagram. And I'm just, continuing to write articles, and really looking forward to getting more up on Medium, so that my work...
Medium, is that...
It's
for writing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a little bit similar to Substack.
Yeah.
But a little bit more open. So it's a $5... There's free articles, or $5 a month for paid articles. Really big spectrum of topics.
I read about reality transurfing on Medium, and I thought it was just like a newspaper almost, but it's lots of writers. Cool, beautiful. And if people want to find you on Instagram, what's your handle?
Jaimee Kate Australia.
Beautiful. We'll put it down below. I think that's everything. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. Much love. Please reach out to Jaimee if you're interested in her work, or you just want to follow her journey. And we'll talk again soon. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Hello, beautiful people. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Jaimee. Now, I wanted to jump on and share a couple of events that I have coming up, starting off with Euphoria Ecstatic Experience. So if you love to dance, and if you're in Melbourne, then this event is for you. So I'm co-hosting this event with Tinika Shriya. So Tinika is my friend, and she's also a healer, an artist, and she has light language abilities. So we wanted to create a healing space where it's all about fun, dancing, letting go, being fully present, and to just really set yourself free from the mundane worries of our day-to-day life. And just to really come into that, passion and joy for life, and that fun and that connection. And just to really be fully present and to let go. So this ecstatic dance will be a little bit different, where we are going to open with cacao, and cacao is included free with your ticket. There'll be a grounding meditation, and then we'll get into the dance. I will be DJing, so I'll be on the music. And at the same time, Tinika will be doing some light language activations. So light language, you can listen to more of what it's about in a podcast that I've recorded with Tinika. But light language is just language from the soul. And the beauty of light language is that it bypasses the conscious mind. It's really about the feeling that it activates within you. And so we just felt combining my love of music with Tinika's light language abilities is just going to be a really one-of-a-kind, unique, and powerful experience. So we wanted to bring people together to have fun, to dance, to move, to be fully present, and to really let go of any dense energies that you might have been holding on to. So as I mentioned, cacao is included with your ticket. If you don't know what cacao is, it's like hot chocolate. It is a more refined product than normal cocoa, and it's less processed, so it's better for you. And cacao is just known to open the heart chakra, so to help you to feel more present and more open to feeling love and connection. So the whole point of Euphoria is that we will be ending on a high. We will be building the energy up and the movement up to be ending with a really euphoric, blissful feeling. So I would just love to have you there and share this, really unique experience with you. So Euphoria is in Brunswick, Melbourne on Friday, November 29th from 7:30 p.m. We have tickets available in the link below, and I encourage you to get in quick because we do have early bird tickets available till the end of October. And we also have limited places. There's only so many people we can fit in this venue. So yeah, get your ticket, get the early bird. We would love to see you there. Secondly, I'm just dropping a hint that I will be hosting another in-person event in early February. And this will be more of a day workshop where we deep dive into reality creation, applying the principles to your life, and there'll also be a timeline jump within this workshop. So I wanted to just share the stuff that I'm so passionate about, to share the concept of reality creation and break it down so it's super simple to apply so that your goals actually feel super achievable and you can see like a really clear plan into how to make that happen. I will show you how to release any dense energies, any fear, any distractions, any obligations, and to really focus in on what you actually want, and then how to make that all happen really easily. Essentially, how to actually receive what you're creating instead of going out trying to force it to happen. Like, you actually just get to sit back and receive the experience. And yeah, there'll also be a timeline jump into a reality where that's already happening. But anyway, that's just a hint for now. So that event will be early February. Then, as always, you can also book a private session with me in person or online. I have my healing sessions where we can let go of the past, let go of any dense energies, and really set yourself free. I have my career confidence sessions where we can talk more about your business or where you're going, and magnetism, abundance, integrity, all these beautiful things that we need to create a long-term sustainable business. Or you can book an intuitive reading where I can tap into your energy, I can see what messages are coming through, what the tarot wants to communicate, and anything else that you might need clarity on. So yeah, there's lots happening. I would love to see you at one of my events or to have a session with you. As always, you can just send me a message or drop a comment and I will get back to you because I would love to hear from you. And I'd love to know if you enjoyed this episode, if there's anything more that you would love from these podcasts, or anything that you've learned or want to share. It's all welcome. I love talking to you guys. I love having these types of conversations. So yes, thank you for joining me and we will talk again soon. Bye.